Hello everyone and welcome once again to the penultimate round of this year's chess Olympiad. It is Gukesh versus Nodirbek Abdusattorov, the game everyone's been waiting for, as both of them have had an incredible tournament. Gukesh 16 years old, Abdusattorov 17 years old. Abdusattorov also the reigning world rapid champion. This is definitely the clash to watch. Both of them have defeated Fabiano Caruana in this tournament with the black pieces. Gukesh started with 8 out of 8, Abdusattorov started with 5 out of 5. Then he slipped a little bit, he lost one game, but then he quickly bounced back. So both of them having an incredible tournament, and this is the match that we all wanted to see, and it does not disappoint in terms of the moves played. So let's check it out. It is quite a thing to spectate. And also, I don't know if you guys are interested in this, FIDE announced today that we already know the host for the 2026 Olympiad, and it will be hosted by Uzbekistan. So just in case you were wondering. So Gukesh has the white pieces and he opens with d4. We have knight to f6, c4, we have e6, knight to f3 and d5 going for the queen's gambit declined. And now knight to c3 and bishop to b4, everyone's favorite Ragozin defense. And we already mentioned a few videos ago, bishop g5 and c captures on d5 are the main ideas here. Also e3 is very popular, but queen to a4 check is what most players are trying out nowadays. So queen a4, knight to c6, and now pawn to e3. We have castles and now bishop to d2. The knight is no longer pinned, and now comes the incredibly rare move. Here d captures on c4 is the main idea. Also a6 is very popular, but Abdusattorov plays a5, and it's not new, but it has been played only a handful of times. So a3 challenging the bishop. We have bishop captures, and now knight to e7. So Abdusattorov gives up the bishop pair. So what will he gain in return? We have queen back to c2, and now there is a game where d captures on c4 was played in a game between Alexei Smirnov and Evgeny Alexeyev in 2021 that ended in a draw. But here we have b6, and it is now as of move 10 that we have a completely new game. So here b3 strengthening the c4 pawn and the bishop to a6, putting the bishop on this very strong diagonal, putting pressure on c4. Now comes a4, stopping any b5 ideas in the future, and now knight to e4, going after the dark square bishop, but just bishop back to b2. Gukesh prefers to have his bishop pair intact. Knight to c6, and now bishop to a3. Putting pressure on the rook on f8, we have knight to b4, and now bishop captures on b4, messing up Abdusattorov's pawn structure here, and now pawn captures here. At some point you are expecting either c5, or maybe in the future this pawn will go to c5, then maybe you will have a pass pawn on a4 ready to be pushed forward. So here bishop to d3, putting pressure on the knight, also just threatening to win a pawn here. So knight to f6. Here you could decide to go for the very committal f5, defends the knight, and well, then you can go for something like bishop captures, f captures, attacks the knight, and then knight comes to e5. And while this is playable, it's not everyone's cup of tea. So after bishop to d3, knight back to f6, Abdusattorov prefers to keep the position intact, and now we have castles by Gukesh. c5 now, the pawn has stayed on c7 for far too long. D captures on c5, b captures, and now Gukesh does have a pass pawn on a4 now, but Abdusattorov has all of this immense pressure in the center, so pawn to e4. That's how he decides to play it. It even means that Abdusattorov can win Gukesh's light square bishop. For example, if you go for this capture and bishop captures, which was played in the game, you could capture it. But after queen captures, the knight here feels much stronger than the bishop on a6. You cannot play bishop b7. The queen is already beautifully centralized on e4, and you know that the rooks are coming on the d file. Knight is coming to g5, then maybe some rook d3 to h3, g3 action is possible. So it's hard to say if the bishop will be able to fight the knight on f3. So instead of capturing, rook to a7, You could also move the queen. Maybe you want to put the rooks and double up rooks on the d file, but Abdusattorov has an idea. Knight to e5 now, going for knight to c6 with the beautiful fork, and now queen to d6, just attacking the knight. Rook h to f1, rook f to e1, attacking, defending with a tactic basically. Now if queen captures, we can just open up a discovery with check and pick up the black queen. So knight captures on e4, queen captures, and only now rook to d8. This is how Abdusattorov grabs hold of the d file. And what can Gukesh do? The problem is, if there are any new players watching, if you go for rook 8 to d1, which is something that you want to do, there's always this nasty queen captures and rook captures, and white gets checkmated. Queen e1, rook captures on e1 will be checkmate. So for the moment, Gukesh cannot claim the d file for himself, so queen to f3. This prepares rook to d1, but also puts some pressure on the f7 pawn. For the moment, it is defended by the rook here, but it's a very nasty pressure. So queen back to c7, and now rook 8 to d1. We have rook 8 to a8, now preparing to capture with the rook if the rooks get traded off, and this is exactly what happens. Rook captures, and now comes rook to d1, offering a rook trade, and now best for Abdusattorov is to just trade rooks and create some breathing room for his king with a move like h6. However, in the game he plays rook to c8, and this is now a big problem, because now the position is completely winning for Gukesh, and it's such a tricky move to make that I will ask you guys to pause the video here. So feel free to pause the video and try to find this absolute gem of a move that wins the game for Gukesh while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting the move Gukesh played, and that is queen to g3, but there is a far stronger move, and that is queen to h5. So whoever found queen to h5, congratulations, you are a true master of the game. Point is that after queen to h5, there's no defense against rook to d7. And then you will have a triple attack on f7, and that's just it. There's no move that black can play. There is absolutely no move black can play. It doesn't matter if you play rook f8, still just rook d7, and we're attacking f7 3 times. It's completely winning. The only move you can make is maybe f5, because now, okay, if rook to d7, now the queen no longer defends the knight, so maybe we can capture the knight, but we just defend it with f4, and that's it. Now rook to d7 is coming, and there is no way to do it. If you play rook d8, we can simply trade, then queen captures, and then you no longer have control over the f7 square, so that's the problem. And if you play queen e7, rook to d7 attacks the queen, and queen e8, you offer a queen trade, then we happily trade here, and now just play rook a7, and good luck saving this bishop. You have to play bishop to c8, and now this bishop is stuck here for the rest of the game. The pawn is blocking it in, the knight and the rook control this square, so the bishop can never go anywhere, and well, it's merely a matter of pushing the pawn, and that's it. These pawns are on dark square, so even if white wants, white can just go collect. There's nothing black can do about this. So this would be completely winning for Gukesh. However, after rook to c3, like I said, he played queen to g3, which is similar, but it allows Abdusattorov to sort of get back into the game. And if you're wondering why not just rook to d7 right away, well, of course, queen captures on e5, and then queen captures on f7 check, king h8. The queen now protects against checkmate, and you are just down a piece. Still, white is not lost here or anything, but there's just no good way to continue playing this. So like I said, queen g3, and now we have pawn to h5, a much needed move for Abdusattorov, as now back rank issues are no longer an issue. h3, and now rook to d8, offering a trade of rooks. We have rook captures on d8, queen captures, and now knight to d3. So basically, this is what Gukesh found when he decided to play queen to g3. If this wasn't so appealing, and this is incredibly appealing, with perfect play, this is probably a clean win for white. He would have found that basically an instant win. Now the problem is these pawns are on dark squares. You're going to play queen e3, and you're going to start collecting pawns, and there is nothing Abdusattorov can do about this. So h4, we have queen to e3, and now comes bishop to b7. Finally, the bishop is reintroduced into the game, but at what cost? Black's position is on the verge of being completely lost. The situation on the clock is Gukesh has some 20 minutes, Abdusattorov has 11 minutes on the clock, and there are 8 more moves to be made to to reach time control. So pawn to f3, Gukesh is in no rush to win the pawn. We have queen to d6 and now king to f1. Gukesh starts bringing the king into the game. Pawn to e5, and only now does he capture on c5. Knight captures on c5. We have bishop to c8 as the bishop on b7 is hanging, and now we have king to e1. We have bishop to f5, now grabbing hold of some very important squares. You can see that the pawn covers c3, bishop covers d3, and this. So if the black queen can somehow infiltrate white's camp, could be very nasty. But now Gukesh does what he planned for the entire game. He created a passed pawn. Now he starts pushing it. Pawn to a5. It is the only move that wins the game for him, and he of course plays it. Situation on the clock: 8 minutes. Gukesh, Abdusattorov 6 minutes on the clock. We have queen to c7. Now Abdusattorov has to organize some sort of a defense against the passed pawn, and just pawn to a6. There seems to be no stopping the pawn. We have bishop to c8. Now comes knight to d3. This is again incredibly this is perfect play. I mean, just giving up the pawn like this, shifting attention to the e5 pawn, and played with such elegance. Knight to d3. The problem is now if you defend the pawn, for example f6, then a7, the pawn is defended on a dark square. On a7 you have a light square bishop. This is resigns. So here you have to trade. The bishop captures. Now comes queen captures on e5, offering a queen trade, and of course Nodirbek cannot afford a queen trade. He has to keep the queens on the board and try to complicate the matter, as the king is somewhat open, so we could deliver some checks. So Gukesh not in a rush to push anything. He just plays knight to c5, prevents the queen from infiltrating. Queen to a5, now hoping to get some queen a2 action in, and king to d1. And now comes queen back to d8 with check. If you go for queen a2 and try to harass the white king this way, we can just play queen a8 check, pick up the pawn, and now okay, you can play queen to b1, queen to a1 with check, but we're just gonna bring our king all the way up, and still the position is winning for white. So here Abdusattorov goes queen back to d8 with check, and now king to c2, bishop to c8, getting the bishop out of harm's way, and now knight to e4. We have bishop to e6, and now comes king to b2, and this king to b2 is a move that will that Gukesh will regret for a very long time. Here it's just too easy for the black queen to start harassing the white king. You have to play queen to d6, and then you force a queen trade. Now queen to a8 is not as potent because the king can start marching up the board. You are ready to start pushing your pawn. This would be the way to go, but both of them are very low on time, and it's just an extremely complicated position. So king to b2 was played. Now Abdusattorov just goes queen a8. He's ready to start checking the white king. Knight to c5, and now queen to a3 with check. Now Gukesh is on 12 minutes, Abdusattorov 21 minutes, and he plays king to b1. This is the second mistake that he makes, or maybe not a mistake, maybe a lesser move would be a better term, but with king to c2 it's still possible for him to push this position. After king to b1 it is no longer possible. Now just g6, and Gukesh is without a move. The problem is you can never capture on e6, which was the whole point, because if you capture, Abdusattorov can just start checking. King to c1, queen captures on c4, king to b2, now queen captures on e6, and this is a dead draw. So instead, after g6 we have king to c2. Gukesh brings his king to c2 with a tempo wasted, but now queen a2 check, queen to b2, and now bishop to f5 with check. Knight to e4 blocking, and now not of course trading, but queen back to a7, keeping the queens on the board, and now we are ready to continue, not with that obviously, but we are ready to continue harassing the white king. So king to d3, and now it will be a problem getting away from this pin, with the queen covering this diagonal and the bishop covering this diagonal. So here queen to g1, and now queen to c2. We have queen back to c5 and queen to d2. There is nothing for either of them to do. The position is objectively a draw. However, here about, I think it was around at this point is when both of them realized that Pragyananda has won his game, and now Abdusattorov has to play for the win. Otherwise, India wins against Uzbekistan, so he can't just afford to repeat moves. So queen g1, king to king to c2, and now queen to a1. We have king to d3, and now queen back to g1. So Abdusattorov making quick moves, but he's making sure sure that the game is not settled in a draw. Queen to e2, and now queen back to a7. We have queen to e3, offering a queen trade, queen to a2 now, going for the b3 pawn, and now king d4. Now the queen defends the pawn, but now Gukesh gives up the g2 pawn. He has to give up something, he unpinned, and now he can start pushing for the win. Queen captures on g2, we have knight to g5, and now pawn to f6, kicking away the knight here. And even though queen to e8 looks like it's very interesting, after king to g7, there's just no way to end this properly. Queen to f7 check, even king to h6, and now white is the one who will be struggling to save the game. There's just no good move here. So instead, after king to g7, we have queen e7 check, king to h6, and now knight to f7 check. We have king to h5, and now king to c5. So this game is nowhere near a draw. Both players are now fighting for a win. Queen captures on f3, queen captures on f6, and now queen to e3 with check. King captures on b4, and the bishop captures on h3. So after 65 moves, it's equal material, a bishop against a knight, and with anything just completely possible. So knight to e5 now, going after that g6 pawn, and of course queen to d2 check, king b5, and now bishop to d7 with check, hoping that the knight captures so we can trade here. And here you have to play king to b6, and the game continues. However, king to c5 was played, and now it becomes a little bit easier for Abdusattorov to push this for more than a draw. Queen to e3 check, we have king to b4, now bishop to f5, defending the pawn and consolidating his position. We have queen h8 check, queen to h6. Offering a queen trade. Gukesh declines the trade, because if you trade here, then just king captures, and even though it's equal material, the pass pawn on h5 is just much too close. It will be a win for Abdusattorov. So queen to d8 was played, and now comes queen to g7, and this is the moment that Gukesh will regret for a very, very long time. He was extremely low on clock. He had some 30 seconds, he had 3 seconds when he played the move. He had some 33 seconds. I believe he almost lost some time here. He had like 3 seconds on the clock. He played knight to f3, and now the game is completely lost. It is completely winning for Abdusattorov. And I could ask you to pause the video, and I might even do it, because I don't know. No, I'm not going to even ask you to pause the video, because of course you guys see what happened. The knight has been blundered away. Just queen to b7 check was played, and it was in this position on move 72 that Gukesh resigned the game, and his perfect run has ended. After so many wins, only one draw against Mamedyarov, he finally loses a game to Nodirbek Abdusattorov in the penultimate round of the FIDE Chess Olympiad by blundering a piece. So this is unimaginable. Such a run to be ruined by blundering a piece like this, but the tension was so high. If you've seen the video of the two of them playing, they were both shaking for the better part of the game. Their knees were just, going crazy. It was you could see that both of them were incredibly nervous, as so much depended on their game. But after queen to b7 check, Gukesh resigned, and Nodirbek Abdusattorov takes the win for Team Uzbekistan on board 1, which is just incredible, especially since Gukesh had that beautiful win with queen to h5. But yeah, here he resigned, because once the king moves, of course, queen captures on f3, you're up a piece. There's no point in playing this. Gukesh will be very, very sad that in this position where Abdusattorov played rook to c8, he did not find queen to h5. And the only reason, like I said, is that he saw that queen to g3 was winning, and with perfect play it is winning, and he just probably didn't expect that there is more than one winning idea here. But queen to h5, like we've shown, is instant resigns. Tough break for Gukesh, but a great break for Nodirbek Abdusattorov and Team Uzbekistan. Here are the scores over the board. Gukesh lost to Abdusattorov, Yakuboev drew against Nihal Sarin, Pragyananda defeated Sindarov, and Adiban drew his game against Vakidov. So that means India 2 and Uzbekistan drew their match 2-2. And these are the standings of the FIDE Chess Olympiad after the penultimate round, so you can check it out. Team Uzbekistan and Team Armenia are are tied in first place with 17 points. Then with 16 points, we have India 2, India and United States of America. And then with 15 points, we have Netherlands, Spain, England, Germany, and Moldova. So anything can still happen in the final round. It's going to be completely intense until the very end. We'll see what happens in the final round. That's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Really a wild one. The most expected game from the Olympiad, and it did not disappoint. It did disappoint Gukesh. It was definitely a heartbreak for him. But I mean, just incredible game to witness. Once again, really hope you guys enjoyed it. And the little bit of info about the standings. I would like to thank Natarajan Rangasamy, Hububis, Joshua Hadley, Prasanna Krishnamurti, and Michael Kalber for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the Olympiad until it finishes. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.